Welcome back to today's session. Please, I beg you.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning. Last week, I introduced you to systematic review, and I after teaching it, I made a video available on YouTube. Please go and watch it so that you can avoid asking certain questions which are obvious, and then you can also take your time to understand what we are trying to explain. I plead with you. Most of you have not watched it. After the class, you just close up everything that you are doing and you just take this class like an assignment. But in about 6 months' time, you'll be sitting down in front of your comprehensive and you realize that all that I was trying to do for you was to try to position you in a place where you can understand something better. So I'm hoping that will what I would be able to do for you today. Okay. So going on, I wanted to take you through the session in a different way by looking at the step-by-step activities you are supposed to do to be able to get the work done. To be able to get the work done. So that is what I would like to do for you today. And I'm hoping that you can understand what I'm trying to say. Okay. So let's start off. I'm using different materials, and I've made the references available. So please, when you get the slides, try and refer to them. Some of them are online articles that discuss some of the themes. Some of them is a paper that I've written, and the book that chapter 3 of the Research Medicine book, second edition too, is very relevant. And then maybe if there are any other papers that come up, it may be example papers, but you know if they are not there later on, I can make it available to you. Okay, so the systematic review is a process, and the process entails a number of activities, and then we are going to go through some of the activities today, and then maybe later on we'll go to some of the other activities if there's time permits on a different session. But if it's not permits, I'll just move on to another thing, and I'll expect that you can do much of the reading yourself to understand the rest of the other things. Okay, so going back onto the steps. The first one is to define and determine your question or phenomenon that you want to study. The second one is set and justify your inclusion and exclusion criteria for the literature. The third one is to select and justify the target sources. Where are you going to look out for the literature? Where are you going to search for the literature that you required to do the systematic review on? Then you find the literature itself by going through the search process. You screen and select the against your predefined selection criteria. Then you critically appraise each of the studies to identify the one which are of quality in view of the predefined selection criteria. Then you go ahead and do the synthesis where you find the relationship between them. And then you may either do a meta-analysis or you may not do a meta-analysis. And I'll explain what a meta-analysis is later. And then last one, you go to the writing, the actual writing based on the evidence you have found. Then you have to submit it to your supervisor or fulfill the academic requirement that's why you did it, or then if you see your supervisor, maybe because it's part of your chapter 3, chapter 2, that's your literature review chapter, or you are using it to write your research problem. And then or if you are targeting a publication in a journal or a book chapter or a conference paper, you have to submit to those places. But all those objectives determine or can guide you or can tell you, can inform the depth of synthesis of you do and the depth of searching in terms of the second and third steps, the set and justify, select and justify. When you know your target area, the depth of the review process could be actually defined. Then you also have you update the review. For example, my PhD, the first time I did a review, my first objective of doing a review was to establish my PhD work. Okay, so I'll come back to that later. Update and review. So at every year, the first time I did it, I got 54 articles, and I reviewed it and established my area of research. Then I did it as that one I did as a short paper for my supervisor to identify that which area were we going to narrow down on to do our PhD in. Then after we narrowed down and we saw that it was justified, there was enough justification for it. Then I had to do a more comprehensive review to write the chapter 2 and then chapter 3, and that took me to 171 papers. Then by the time I was, then I published that one alongside too at the same time as a book chapter, no, as a journal article. Then then I went ahead to do it in my third year, second and third year again, and I got to 245 articles, which was now by adding on to the 171. So I added about almost about 43 or 33 new articles to get to the, or 63 new articles to get to the 245. And I used the 245 to complete my PhD. So what do you want to review? The first thing is that you have to ask yourself, what do you want to review? What do you want to review? Are you reviewing a topic or a subtopic or a sub-theme? Or are you reviewing in sometimes in the essence of what you think you can review? You may be thinking about doing something which can help you understand an area, can help you understand an area, can help you understand an area. I remember some few years ago, if I remember very well, I taught some students how to do this thing, and one student did some interesting work that I can, if I can locate, I don't know whether I can locate it from my computer. Um, just give me a second. Let me just see if I can find this particular work. I want to show you that people review different things. Okay. So sometimes if a person is going to do a quantitative work, he may do different types of reviews. If a person is going to do a qualitative work, he may do different types of reviews. I'm showing you a teaser and tenable. Okay, so the title of the thesis is on online relationship marketing, done by Dr. Boateng, marketing department. Um, I want to use market before I come to MIS. MIS students will tell me that I don't want people to say that I'm using only MIS. So I want to look at different. So this chapter 2 you see here is a review of concepts in the area. Concepts in the area. This chapter 2 that you see here. Azu, please, can you see my screen? I don't know whether people can see my screen.
Yes, I can see, Prof.
Yes, Prof.
I need those kind of feedback so that I know what I'm doing. I can, because the computer I'm trying to use a very big screen computer. So you see that is relationship marketing defined, evolution of relationship marketing, and this one. So this type of one, you are trying to review the topical thing. So technically, this one may not be like the kind of systematic review where you count the number of literature and this. You can do that one, but this one is just trying to give you definitions of concepts in the area, definition of concepts. So are there 3 definitions of relationship marketing? Who are there? Where did they begin from? So you still have to read literature. And this is actually an output of a systematic review, to tell you the truth. It's an output, just as they're structured as a distance. So let's actually go to the chapter and look at it. Okay, so look at it. And this is the chapter. It starts by looking at relationship marketing defined. It looks about 3 or 4 different definitions of relationship marketing. Then evolution, how did it begin? Tells you the different, we began from transactional marketing to relationship marketing. So that one goes. Then you go to the years, the past years. Now, and then how to be able to establish the formative areas that build relationship marketing. Then it talks about different types of marketing and how we end up relationship marketing. Then the dimensions of relationship marketing that is brought here. Then the different stages of relationship marketing, not a theory, stages of relationship marketing according to literature, stages or phase of relationship marketing. Then the relationship marketing objective and outcomes, or sometimes somebody say when people do relationship, what do they want out of it? They want to establish trust. So so defining them, commitment, and say now sometimes a person does this because he wants to build his work around the variables. That is why he's doing this type of work. That's why I say so you have to know why you are doing it. If you look at my question, please, if we don't finish today's, or we'll do another, we'll continue until we finish this particular review. So I'm not rushing myself. Okay, so if you look at it, I ask a question here. What is the purpose of the review? Is it for the academic community, so you are going to publish a paper, or it's personal as part of your literature review chapters, or you want to find your PhD, or you just want an publication? So you are dealing with this number one, two, three. So you have to know what you are trying to do. So this particular part of the review was just to explain concepts in the area. And after explaining the concept in the area, then you want to look for the survey of evidence for this concepts. That's when the systematic and economic evaluation of the literature comes in. So he went on to explain the classification of the research in this one, yeah, because it's the methodology is at the back. We're not. I'll go back to the methodology later. So if you look at it now, it's telling you how it has spanned in the area, the economic distribution of the articles, which articles have been looked at, and according to the economic regions, then the methodologies that have been used, and able to establish gaps. Then, because the study is about the constructs, which he explained in chapter 2, you focus on the constructs to let us know which constructs have been used to study the work very well. So this type of review, the person then does what we call, Obed, you need to read this thing because of what you are trying to do. The person try to do what we call antecedents, moderators, and then mediators, and then outcomes. Many quantitative people or people want to do a thorough mixed method study do that. They want to know all the variables that have been used for antecedents of the phenomenon, all the variables that have been used as moderators of the phenomenon, all the variables that have been used as what's the name, mediators, and then the outcomes, and then maybe beyond outcomes. So the person then takes what you do is that the person then takes each of them and then tells you where they are. Then the ones that are top cited are highlighted so that you can tells you that where these are things that where concentration is existing. Concentration is, and some of the variables may have been used in multiple form. In the multiple form, that's why they review the conceptual approaches that have been used in the area. That's the theories, and then after that you point the gaps. Now, I think there's something that I need to show you that's not showing here. So I'll jump to, because it's a book, that's why. I'll jump to the appendix to see if I can find it there. I don't remember this. So these are the review papers to review. This okay, you don't have it here. I wanted to show you. So these are the summary of the literature. I thought you have the table to show. Okay, you don't have it here. Okay. Let me see if I can find it in another type of work. I want to show you something. This is very, very important. Just give me a second. There's something I want to show you. Good. Now you see these are antecedents. So you identify all the variables that have been used as antecedents. And then all the variable and number of times it has been cited in different papers. All the variables that have been used as moderators, all the variables that have been used as outcomes. Now, before you can jump to here, it means that you should have done a lot of checking of the works. Then these are all. So you have a table like this, and then you have different things. So you have something like antecedent, moderator, truth, and outcome, and then you have the variables, and the variables may have been used in different forms in different papers. So you actually have to use as this also referred to as that. And the NT and the T is just the classification of the type of factor, whether it's a technology factor or non-technology factor, because of the type of study the person was doing, what was doing. So what I remember was done was that this is it's an assignment that came from your own class, and that kind of stuff. Now, and so you have the moderators, and we use that one to explain to other students too. So antecedent, moderators, and so you can sometimes a variable like trust has been used as an antecedent, moderator, and an outcome at the same time, and it's in 29 studies. But it has been used more as a moderator than an outcome more than as an antecedent. So, but it's concerning your own work. So you take another one, loyalty. Loyalty has only been used as an outcome, so you know that's an outcome variable. Now, this is very good for somebody who is going to end up doing a study that is likely to become quantitative in nature. So you want to know what variables you are going to involve, especially if your area has so many variables that has to as in the area. And this is just the constructs, understanding the constructs that are of concern. So this is how it looks like as a graph. And so if you look at it, satisfaction has been used more as an antecedent. So it's here. Whilst as a moderator, not that here, and then as an outcome here. But if you look at perceived interactivity, it has been used more as an antecedent and then as a moderator, never as an outcome. So it can never be used as an outcome variable, or it depends on what the literature is saying. So this one is done. So when the person aims at doing this kind of thing, then it affects the way he's going to search for the materials and search for literature. And then it's also going to affect the way he's going to do the discussions that so he's going to discuss the work based on um he's going to discuss the literature based on the variables and how they are being used. So if you look at it, after doing the economic distribution, the review of the construct, these are the top cited constructs. Then in the discussion, he will discuss how they are being used, which one was being used in a dominant way and a less dominant way. Then you have got the review of the conceptual approach. What theories underpin the variables that you are seeing there? What theories underpin the variables? And you can see that she was going for the process-based models as against the factor-based models. So that's what is emphasized here. Then you end up determining which variables that are postulated according to literature that you should look into. So now and then we came to the issues and then the conceptual gaps and then to define what the person wants to do. Now, this is one way. This is just one way. Now, there are those who also do this for a different reason. For example, sometimes somebody will do a review with the objective of trying to systematically understand the themes, not in terms of variables he's going to use, but much more in terms of the thematic area he wants to focus on. The thematic area, because the themes in the area are plenty. So the person may be concerned about the thematic area, and I want to put my PhD as an example for you to look at. Okay. So if you look at, oh, it seems I've opened it already. So in my PhD itself, I had 3 literature reviews. So I have 3 literature reviews. The first literature review was the survey of evidence. I was explaining the review of literature in the area. The second one was on just the benefits, and the third one was on towards building my model, and that was on the resource-based theory. So, okay, so I won't say that. Okay, so it's 2 reviews being um, the second one and the third one. One is on benefits and development. So I did a paper on e-commerce and development and reviewed it. I published the paper. That is what is here. And I also did a paper on e-commerce in developing countries. And that is it. Because my outcome variable was development. So I needed to do a review on that one. And my antecedents and moderators and all those things were more about e-commerce in developing countries, the strategies. So if you look into that chapter, and later publish as a paper. Let's look at it as a chapter. Let me see if I can get there faster by going to. Okay. I want to use another. Okay, good. So this is as a book chapter. That one is better for me to use because this one is standing on its own. So as a book chapter, I began my classification work. This is what you see as that. This is what you saw as 2 of the previous thesis I was showing you, where I explained the concept. So I explained all the concepts in the area. And then my PhD is centered on this, but it's centered on the strategy and at the organizational level. But I was able to only do that by establishing that there's a gap in the area. So I defined the concepts and I went to the methodology and I looked at the different issues. I'll come to methodology later. So I just want to show you things about issues. So these are the general areas: potential and constraint, adoption and diffusion, and support and implement. These are the key thematic areas. But your gap can be in a dominant area. So don't say that because something is dominant, you can't do a study. I looked into this area. This one. This is what I did for my PhD. I looked into that one. How did I look into that? Because when I narrowed down the literature in that area, I found out there was gaps in that area. I don't think I have the graph here. I don't think I have the graph here. I have the graph in another one. So I found out there were gaps in that area. And only 14% of the literature had been used, have been focused on that area. So I ended up looking into that one. So what am I trying to emphasize here? Everybody who is going to do a thesis has to define what are you trying to do? What are you trying to do? What is the area of research you are trying to do? So first of all, is it for the academic community? If for the academic community, then you are going to have papers like this. Like this paper that I published, e-commerce. This one too came from somebody's master's. Computer computing research, a review of research themes, frameworks, methods, and future research direction. This came from Prince Senyo, who was a valedictorian in his time. So it's a meta-analysis of cloud computing research. In fact, it's actually a systematic analysis that led to a meta. So we did 200 out of 67 peer-reviewed journal, 2009 to 2015. So that's what we did. Now, sometimes a student may also do it with the objective of, let me go back to my slides, with the objective of not the academic committee, but it's part of your chapter. So in the as a chapter, you have to have it focused. What are you doing? You have to have it. But at the beginning stage, when you're in year one, you don't know where you end up in. So it can be very broad in your mind. And my first review was just e-commerce in developing countries, very broad in my mind. I wanted to look at everything that has been done. By that time, I didn't know how to search very well. So I just got only 50-something articles and I started with that one. I went on and built on. Now, the objective at that time of doing the review, which was my first review, was to find my PhD. So most of you who don't have a PhD yet, and maybe a tentative PhD yet, it is because you are doing this study because you want to find something, an area of research to be able to narrow down on and justify it strongly. So in that case, you have to look for the contemporary papers that are in the area and try and review those contemporary papers. Okay. There are some people who just want to do it as a publication already. That one is a different reason. And others also may do it because it's a combination of all these things. He will do it as a PhD, going into his chapter 2, and after he has found his PhD, he will use it to strengthen his chapter, his research problem, and then write chapter 2, and then he eventually publish it. So somebody can do it because of all the three things. Quite a number of you who are in the MIS field, this is one of the reasons why you are doing it. You are trying to find the PhD, you are trying to also establish your chapter 2 before you get your comprehensive. You want to establish your and establish your research problem. So those are the things that you might. So that means that the thoroughness that you bring to the work is quite different. But you have to know whether you are going to focus on constructs, listing of constructs, theoretical frameworks, conceptual frameworks, and then methods. Or you are going to focus more on themes. Those are different. Themes, conceptual frameworks, and then the last one being the methods and then the context. So these are the things that come in your mind. So the next thing that you ask is that, are you the first person doing the review? Before I go there, I want to know whether I have any questions on number 1, 2, 3. Sorry. Number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, 2, and 3. Number 1, 2, and 3 of this slide. Okay, so Azu is asking now, why did the numbers change drastically? Because sometimes in the first number of type of research I didn't do more databases. That is one. Number 2, the first time I did the 54, I did it. I was giving my supervisor gave me. I started a PhD entering in September 2004. He said that by November I should have written a review. I've not written a review before. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just like you people. So he just gave me a sample paper to look at, and there was no class that was teaching the review. So he told me I should just go and review what we know and what we don't know. So my structure was very poor. So I just went and looked for papers, and I even did plagiarism in that one. So he taught me how to write and how to avoid plagiarism. In fact, he used that one to teach me so many things. He used that one to teach me how to write. My supervisor, Richard Hicks, was somebody that if you write your chapter, he will rewrite the chapter for you and give it back to you. This is the kind of supervisor I had. Even up to final year, he will rewrite the chapter to you. This let me just show you. This particular paper that I wrote with Boateng was coming from my PhD. And then we collaborated after I wrote the first one, Professor Butch's Perspectives and stuff. It became a best paper somewhere. I think the journal that was published in here. Best paper in the journal that was published. This one. This is where you see account. This was like the first time I wrote. This is how it looked like. So Richard Hicks rewrote the whole abstract and he changed the whole paper. He rewrote the abstract, he rewrote several sections. The abstract is split into two parts, so you can't see it very well. But those of you that want to know why I chose an area of research to do my research in, I want to show you where my gap came from. So this is the thematic areas by business. Good. Now look at where my PhD came from. My PhD came from here. Now this 21% you see here, I'm sorry, this 25% you see here is 25, it's only 14%. I mentioned earlier, 14% of the 38%. Yeah, 14%. So this is where I focus my PhD, and this is where the theories gap and everything came from. So it doesn't mean that a place like adoption does have more studies, so you should go there. I wasn't doing marketing, so there was no need for me to go to consumer behavior. I wasn't doing computer science. There's no need to go to design and development. I wasn't doing something from a legal department, so public policy or public administration. I don't have to go there. I wasn't going to information system security or public policy related issues like that. I didn't go there. I wasn't an accounting student, so I didn't go to taxation. I wasn't a marketing student, so I didn't go to service evaluation. I was an MIS student who needed to be able to understand strategy, so I stayed here. So even if you do your classifications, know where you belong to before you choose your gap. You choose where you want to narrow down. Otherwise, you've been a field that you'll be doing something for political science, but your PhD, you are in public admin, but you're doing a political science work. And be very careful. If you're not very careful, you may not get the public administration degree you're looking for. You end up getting a political science degree, or nobody in your department to supervise you. Papers are written for different purposes, so there are different gaps you will see. Choose the gaps that you will narrow down what is relevant to your area. So you can really look at the variables or constructs, or you can look at themes. So question that you should ask yourself, am I going a thematic way? I'm going a construct way. Construct way, you are going to be looking for variables and how they have been used in terms of which of them are high value, which of them are moderators, which of them are mediators and things. So that can help you reform your constructs and the models that you develop in the future. Quantity people like doing that. If you are doing, it doesn't mean that the other approach, which is much more about themes. If you're going the thematic way, it doesn't mean that all thematic way is qualitative. But the thematic way, you may be drawing towards a qualitative. But sometimes somebody may do that and do mixed methods. So I don't want to say that there's one way which is better than the other. Okay. Any questions, please? Any questions? I can't see the hands up. Okay, no hand is up. Francis, you don't have any question? Oh, he's not here today.
Prof,
Martin J, you don't have any
Prof, I'm
question?
here.
Yo, anyway.
Hello, Prof.
Arinda, you don't have any question?
Hello, Prof. This is Martin.
Martin, yeah, Martin.
Prof, with the whole review thing that we're talking about now, I'm a bit confused because during my MPhil, we did a similar thing, but it's like our own, we were given a range where you need to select your articles from. So let's say the time frame. So with your own, when you were talking, you didn't mention anything like that. Is it open to all that?
I've not reached select and define your criteria. I've not selected that now.
Okay.
All I'm here right now is about the starting point. There are some people who are ahead, so it's good. Matthew, you are ahead. Some of you may say don't even know what to do. So I'm just trying to do. So please, if I will move away from this slide, that means that everybody has an idea of what they want to do. So I can pick up and ask. If I move away from this slide, it means that everybody knows what she wants to do. So I can pinpoint and ask, since you are not asking me. So Cynthia Bwaji, what is your area that you want to do your research on? And what are you choosing about doing your review on?
Hello, good morning, Prof. Thank you for your question. I'm looking at the area of marketing strategy in insurance, among insurance companies.
Okay, please, do you want to contribute to marketing strategy as a concept or marketing strategy and insurance companies?
As a concept, okay, Well, I don't understand what you mean by as a concept, but
Good, because you have gone to add another variable. You have added the industry to it. Some people do narrow down and do a review within an industry. I've even seen people do a review within a country. All papers published about Ghana on a topic.
Yes,
But
I'm
you have
looking
chosen,
at the industry. I'm looking at the industry. You know, the industry, we have not penetrated that much within the industry. So there are growth potentials. So we want to
but
look at what different we can do to extend
good.
yeah.
But Cynthia, that is the business problem. That is not the research problem. So your business problem is that you want to look into a marketing strategy in the insurance industry. Good. The question that you should now do is to establish two things. Is marketing strategy research what has been done and what has not been done? What do we know and what don't we know? And as part of that research, find out what has been the industry distribution of the research. Which industries have received more research and which industries have not received more research. Then you can justify from without even touching the practice. You are justifying even in literature. Marketing strategy in insurance has not received much attention. You can't use your mouth to say it. You need to show. And the only way you can show is through the review. Unless somebody has done the review already and said it. But even that one, because you are doing a PhD, we want you to also check, because the person may have published his work years ago. How many papers have been published in marketing strategy alone? What are the things they have looked at? That's the concept itself, the theme. What are the sub-themes that I have looked at? Now, when we put marketing strategy, you can even break it down. I'm just thinking, Mama, formulation of the strategy, the constituents of the strategy, and the purpose of the strategy, formulation and constituents of the strategy, implementation of the strategy, and then evaluation of the strategy. So I have four things I've mentioned about the dimension of strategy. So I can categorize my literature even in these 4 dimensions. Among these 4 dimensions, in the industries, which of them has been done? Even insurance industry, which area among the 4 has received attention? Because even maybe there may be 2 or 3 papers just in insurance industry concerning marketing strategy. But which of them is it more about the implementation of the strategy or evaluation of the strategy or consumer perception of the strategy? You may need to find out. Then on top of all of it too, you made me want to establish, even in the marketing strategy literature, how much has been done from an African or West African perspective. That's the geographic distribution. Then narrow down and ask yourself how much has been done in the West African or African on the theme called insurance. So you have got a lot of things to look at. If your objective is to end up with insurance, then you don't just get up and choose insurance. You have to walk us to the place that, oh, okay, insurance is a gap. So when you look at your end of your PhD, we have to be able to choose what you want to do in terms of the concept. You have to choose what theory you are going to use to look at what you want to do. You have to be able to tell us which area is justified to do that work in. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Let me just show you an example. We don't. Look at the gaps here. I just want to point out gaps. See if I can find a gap, a particular gap. Okay. Good. Furthermore, the studies conducted on online relationship marketing and mentioned above seem to focus more on developed than developing. There's a prevalence on European and North American studies, with limited studies on Africa. Even with the developed countries, the studies are reviewed have primarily focused on retail. You see that new industry gaps, retail, 20 out of the 66. This one narrowed down 66 papers. Hospitality and tourism and travel industries, 20 articles. And then you give examples. And then with limited studies on banking, 7. So Boateng has therefore called more studies on the impact of internet on banking relationships. This is corroborated by Iwanu and then Zaleski. So what we are trying to point out is that by the time you realize you ended up choosing Ghana, you end up also establishing the context. Banking has received only how many? Seven. So you need to have a concluding statement like that will point that insurance has received only this number, even this in the developed though, so that your insurance will give you. So right now, if you go and search straight on insurance, you are making a mistake. I think your searching is going to be much more on marketing strategy and see what you want to look into. Okay. Use her as an example. Next one, I'll choose another department. I didn't even know which department she come from, but it's good that she came from marketing. We are finished with that. Okay, then. Please, there's a hand by Tosa. Yeah, Tosa. Tosa, my man.
Prof,
Yes, please.
I want to find out practically, and when we are doing, let's say, a review of construct, and I pick a number of papers from journals, do I practically focus on the construct to find out which construct have been used, or I will have to read everything about the paper and just before teasing out the construct?
Oh, that one is a different story. That's about synthesis of looking into literature. That's what I was trying to teach you last week. That what happens is that when you download the paper, you have to know what you are looking for. You are going to search based on the theme. Maybe let's say a marketing strategy, and then you want to look antecedents to marketing strategy. So you look for the paper, you see that does this paper discuss antecedents? If antecedents were discussed, which were the antecedents to discuss? Then you list all of them.
Okay.
Then it will be on your Excel sheet. Then you look at what were the outcomes he listed. Okay. Then you pick another paper. Then you see that some of them have been repeated. Do you understand me?
Yes, yes.
Good. That is why you have a. That is why you have a. You have something like this. Look at this. So, trust, as also referred to as e-trust, trust in vendor behavior, initial trust in a company. These are how different papers have used it. You found 8 papers that has used that, and this is not exclusive, mutually exclusive papers. So, what I'm trying to say, the 8 could have, that's saying one of the papers could have even used it here, but you count it individually. Do you understand me?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
The objective is to try to know the constructs you want to use in your work, and then know how it has been studied. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you, too. Okay. So let's go back to now the question that you go to the next is that first of all, before you jump into even the area and know whether you want to narrow down finally on this area, you want to be sure that are you the first person doing the review in that area? What are the reviews that exist? There may be different reviews, and some of the reviews may even be looking into a particular area, maybe healthcare, maybe even a particular industry. So ask yourself what reviews exist in the area concerning the theme. What was the purpose of that review? What classification framework? How did they classify their literature? How did they group them up? What did they do? Because sometimes you can adapt from somebody. You can adapt somebody's classification. So you can adapt somebody's classification. If you look at this is my paper here. I talked about how I classified the research themes, and I think I mentioned it somewhere. Good. Cloud computing classification, literature classification from adapted from Young and 30. So this is how I'm going to classify the things according to themes. So these are the major themes and these are the sub themes. So I picked it from here. Sometimes you will have the major themes yourself. Then you yourself will come up at the papers, you download the papers, you come up with the other sub themes and categorize them. Yeah. But sometimes somebody has done that already for you. That's why it is good to look at existing reviews. Look at Yate and a descriptive literature review and classification of cloud computing research, published in 2012. This paper was published in, and I paper we published our own in 2018. This paper was published in 2012. So what am I trying to emphasize? I went to 2012 and found somebody's sample paper and look at his classification framework and built upon that one, developed upon that one. So one of the good reasons of looking at people's papers is to also get ideas on how to classify your literature. That is why it's not good to just jump in without looking at who was there before you. Then what method did he do? What was his criteria of selection? How far did he go? What year did he span? All these things you can check from his methods. What analysis did he do? Did he do a meta-analysis or he just did a descriptive analysis? or he did combine both, or he did a bibliometric analysis, whichever one you want to look into. Then the future research direction, did he leave some work for that future research should do? Did he acknowledge some limitations about his own work that maybe he didn't look in papers in this and that, and then future studies should look into those areas. So you want to look at that. Now, based on that kind of works, based on that kind of search, you are now going to establish, listen carefully, you are now going to establish which of the areas which sample papers are you going to use as a guide. Now, the sample papers you're going to use as a guide or sample material you're going to use as a guide depends on your target. If your target is a chapter, then look for a paper that, a thesis that your supervisor has supervised before, so they can look at what it is. Because it's not all supervisors that like this type of review. Some supervisors just like the concept type of review. They don't count. Just explain the concept and explain it to us. Just normal one. Like I showed you in the first, the teaser I was showing. I showed you the chapter 2 was a concept review, just about the concept, the explanation of the concept. Some supervisors just like that one. Me, if you're not very careful, you fall into the hands of an examiner who wants thorough, in-depth review. He may question that type of work. I'm not saying, but in some other departments, they don't like it at all. I remember one of my students in public health, in the school of public health. I taught her this one, and she look at that one and stuff. The person said, the person said the supervisor said they don't like it. I was a co-supervisor. They were surprised about it. When he went to the examination, one of the reviewers, gave excellent reviews for it. Another reviewer got angry about that one and said that he doesn't understand the thing he has done. I saw that it's all about disciplinary differences. So the person nearly referred the lady because of that particular one. And then, so when the committee sat down and looked at it, said, this girl has done something that is even beyond what our students have been doing, and you can't punish her for that. So they realized that the person, instead of saying that he doesn't understand what has been done, he has never seen something like that before in his field. But it is something that is, in fact, to tell you the truth, people who do reviews more are medical scientists. They even do more. If you go to NHIL, that database, you see more medical. They review diseases. They do even more complex reviews, more than even we in the management field. So for somebody in public health who say he has not seen them, realize that person is not a very up-to-date person. So sometimes if you don't, you have to be praying. If your work goes to a reviewer who is an examiner who is not contemporary, you think the things that you have done contemporary is not good. That's why I always advise students that publish your work. If the person is going to say it's not good, if it has been published in the discipline, he cannot say anything anymore because the discipline goes beyond him. But if it becomes about his own personal views, then he uses his personal views to in graduate school, sometimes they don't even know when it's a person's personal view, and when it's a person's scholarship. But that's why you need to make sure that the things you are doing, publish works out of it, so that when your scholarship is being called for, you will see that it is really a good, it's not something that you are just doing, it's something that is great. Okay, so I'm just trying to point out that please find out which order I'm going to sample. If it's going to be a chapter you are targeting, a PhD chapter, pick a PhD that your supervisor has supervised or that has used a style like that, and be watching it. Okay, what did he do? What did he not do? What did he do? What did he not do? Then you'll be learning from the ideas and stuff. If it is going to be a conference paper, pick an conference. If it's going to be a journal, pick a journal. But the best thing for you to do is to pick a journal, maybe a PhD chapter, because you are a PhD student. So a PhD chapter and a journal will be very good for you. About 2 or 3 different ones, so that you always look and compare. Even if you get a PhD that was also published, the review was published, and that's even best. I mean, at least you can learn from both. How was it a chapter, and when was it changed from a chapter to a book? How was it a PhD chapter, and how was it changed? How did it change into a journal? Okay, or a thesis chapter, and then how did it change into a journal? So get this as reference work to guide you. Okay, now let's. And then please, when you are going to do your review, don't try to target your reviews directly at this stage to the research question you have in mind. Please stay on the concept to find out whether there are any other gaps that exist in the area. Sometimes look, when I began my PhD, I chose my PhD area of research as e-commerce because I did an assignment in my master's on e-commerce in developing country, and I wanted to carry it to my PhD. But the time I did assignment, it was about adoption. So when I started my PhD, I was thinking about adoption. But when I did the search and I did the gaps and everything, I realized that there was an urgent call from 3 papers talking about the strategy part of e-commerce research in developing countries, which has not received research at all, but adoption was plenty. So I thought adoption would be the interesting one I should look at, but he said you should look at strategy. So please, if I narrow down and just search for adoption papers, I'll be in trouble. I will never see the strategy issues. But because I opened my mind and look at e-commerce in developing countries, what we know and what we don't know, in a broad sense, it made me see that there could be other. I even show you something on public policy. I showed you something on taxation. That if there was an accounting student among us, he could have done that one. I showed you something on legal, on public policy. Somebody could have done that one. Because I did a good review, because I'm trying to establish scholarship in an area. PhD is not to a particular sub-team alone, it's to an area. You are going to be an ambassador of an area. She like this Cynthia should become an ambassador of marketing strategy by the time she finishes. Then she can narrow down her strengths are into what? Insurance industry. But when you talk about all the marketing strategy frameworks and models and everything, she should be able to know them on the fingertips because she's going to apply them to an industry. The industry is just an application. So please don't narrow down too much into the exact question you want to answer for your PhD. How do you even come up with the exact question? You need to justify how the question is relevant from the literature. So how are you going to do that? The only way you can do that is to sit back and look at the literature and see what the literature tells you. See what the literature tells you. So please, this is not a time for you to narrow down too much. That's why you do different levels of review. You can do the broader one and find an area, then go into that area within that same paper and break it down. If you narrow down, and by the time you realize you get maybe only 10 papers or 20 papers or 13 papers or 50 papers in an area. But if you step aside and you actually look at it, you get more, then you can narrow down. You can then pick what you have selected more and then point out the gap. Then where you pointed the gap, do a detailed study which aspect of the gap you want to address. Francis, are you here with me?
Yes, Prof. I am here.
What are you thinking of doing?
Prof, I was thinking about corporate governance, narrowing to the sector, the credit union sector.
Okay, so you have corporate governance as an issue and the sector as credit union. You need to
Yes,
go and
please.
do a review on corporate governance or find out whether the current literature on corporate governance has enough literature on credit union. If there's a lot of literature in that area, hitting to about above 200, 300 and stuff, you may just go narrow down on the credit union, narrow down on it. But you see, the problem with that is that you will not know the gaps in corporate governance literature. So you have to establish how many corporate governance reviews have they done, corporate governance as a whole. Has anybody attempted looking at it in developing countries? Then the context comes. Then when you look at the developing countries, has anybody then looked at it in the sector as a review? No. So then yours could be, if the literature is a lot in the area, yours could be corporate governance, credit union, and then developing countries. But if the literature in developing countries is not a lot, and you want to try and understand the area very well, it can be corporate governance and credit union. Or if you still want to stay with corporate governance, then you stay with corporate governance and then in developing countries, just only those two, and see how much you can find and narrow down towards the credit union. The reason why I'm trying to say that you need to be able to justify why you're going to credit union straight away. And credit union is a very a word that has different meanings to different economic systems or economic jurisdictions. So what we call credit union, we know we call credit union in America, if I'm right. It may have another name. So it means that you have to start looking for the broader name that it belongs to. What do you know the broader name it belongs to?
Yeah. So the in the world, the dominant name is the credit union, but some part, let's say in Africa, for example, the East Africans call it savings and credit association. The West Africans call it credit unions. I think the Southern Africans also have savings and credit associations. And so,
You know, you are still lost. Do you realize that corporate governance and credit unions, what are credit unions? What do they belong to?
it's a financial institution.
Thank
But
you very much. So you are looking at corporate governance and financial institutions. Now use that one to prove to us that there is a gap in the savings and loans and credit union subsector.
Yes, please.
You see where you are coming from. Or somebody will even call them small financial institutions or savings and loans financial institutions. Because let me ask a question. Will you capture the Grameen Foundation Initiative, Microfinance Institution, as part of that literature on corporate governance? Because corporate governance and microfinance institutions will not be far away from corporate governance in credit unions too.
Yes, one of the issue is the where to locate or situate the credit union in the microfinance industry.
Good. But technically, so now you realize that it's likely that people have been publishing under the microfinance name, and the microfinance has been there since the 80s. So technically, you may have a lot of literature on CG and microfinance. Maybe that's where you may like to start from.
Yes, Prof.
Good. Then you can add more variables in your search terminology. When you can add keywords, then you can add more keywords, different keywords. Let me just show you something right now. You are looking at my screen, so let me just show you. Look at this paper. Oh, forgive me. Okay, good. Look at this paper. Look at how he's doing smart cities. So he uses different search parameters: e-cities, smart cities, digital cities. Some parts is even using all digital cities, smart cities, e-cities. So you may have to use different terminology. You have to know the different representations of your word. The different representations of your word. Please, nobody should have a review that has the country Ghana in it. It is not allowed. A review is not country specific. Remember, I told you it's not country focused. It's not narrowed down to only one journal. And at your stage as a PhD, you are at your formative stage. So you don't narrow down to a country. Nothing like that. Nobody should have this last semester, I had situations like that where people write the review and they say they're focusing just on Ghana. No, you have not reached that stage yet. Now you need to stay. Your work is not for just Ghana. Your work is contributing to an area, to a developing economy or emerging economies. So even if anything you wanted to do, then let me see emerging economies in your destiny, not this thing. So if your work is going to look at a particular area that will end up collecting data from Ghana, like Cynthia said, your review is not going to narrow down on Ghana. Your review is still on marketing strategy. Your review is still on corporate governance in microfinance, or corporate governance in finance, or corporate governance in whichever terminology we use to classify the credit union people. The thing is that what you may have the word as in practice is not the same word that is used in academics in terms of searching and publishing. So you have to know the keywords very, very well. The keywords very well. Okay. Wow. Somebody says, look at strategic purchasing of medical services in context of public health insurance scheme. How do you please, all you are looking at is I don't know where you belong to, George Asamoah. You may want to look at public health insurance schemes. If there is something like that, you may want to look at public health insurance schemes. That means what public health insurance, review that area. Or you say strategic purchasing of medical services. So you see the problem I have right now, you have to narrow down to a exact point of what you want to do when you have not even touched the literature on public health insurance to see what the issues are. That is the problem most of you have. You have narrowed down to where your data is going to be collected from. But it may not necessarily be relevant in academics. So it's either you are looking at public health insurance schemes and public health insurance, you're researching the literature in that area, or you are looking at purchasing of medical services in the public health, or medical services in and even that one, I'm even confused because is it about, oh my, do you want to contribute to the public health insurance or you want to contribute to the purchasing part? If I'm a marketing student, then you are on the purchasing part and adoption of those medical services. But if you are a public health student, then you have to go to public health part. That is why I call having an area and having a sub-theme. Which of that are you looking into? You see, if you look at what Francis is doing, because Francis is working in credit union, he wants to just look at CG in credit union. But the CG belongs to finance already, and CG belongs to finance and the other area. What's the name? accounting. It belongs to you, to the two of you primarily, and maybe a little bit of HR. So CG belongs to the three groups now. Because he's finance, he has to ask the finance question that relates to that area. And he puts it in credit union. But he has forgotten that credit union also belongs to another bigger group, which can be publishing literature on the area. Because credit union may just be doing something at a different scale as compared to all normal financial banking institutions will do. So it will be better for him to either look at credit financial institutions and then corporate governance in developing countries or emerging economies. The reason why I'm saying the emerging economies is that there's a lot of research in the area of corporate governance already. So it's easy for him to go straight to emerging economies, for him to get literature in that area. Okay. Now, let me address. Look, if you have to ask a question, ask directly so that we can engage. I can't read everybody's own. I'm looking at telemedicine in the mental health sector. So look at review literature on telemedicine and see how much. You see, now you have added ethics. So here you look at telemedicine and ethics in telehealth. Then you look at literature on telemedicine and see how much has gone on ethics, or look for literature on telemedicine and ethics. You see, depending on what you search, if you search, recently we did some review and we realized that when you search and you get 50 and less, it is better you do a systematic review, or you step out and do a bigger one so they can point where the gap is. If you want to use economic distribution or statistical evaluation to justify a selection of an area, in addition to your descriptive synthesis that you are going to do, then you have to be getting good numbers. Otherwise, it's not, the percentages don't matter. The percentages may not necessarily matter. But, sometimes we may pick just 66 studies and narrow down to do a thorough examination on it. But those narrow down is because those 66 papers are coming out of a thorough evaluation and search, and that has narrowed us down to those 66 papers. Okay, let's continue and I'll come back. Blockchain, click fraud, and consumer trust. You are just putting terminologies together. Do you really know the mixture of the two? If you want to contribute to consumer trust and blockchain, then do review. But blockchain is an emerging area. There are not much reviews in that area, and most applications. So maybe you may have to look at consumer trust and technology research and see how they point you towards looking at blockchain and click fraud. That may be better. Because sometimes the thing you're typing there, Google it and see. I say use a Google Scholar or any of the academic database and see whether you get any literature in the area, especially literature in which they talk about these things in the abstract, not just in the body of the work. So let me point something. There's nothing like you are finished getting the perfect keyword. It is going to become an iterative process. As you do, you get, as you do the work, you get better at it, and you'll be adding more and dropping more out. Okay, so let's look at the boundaries. The boundaries. This brings me to the question that somebody was asking earlier. What type of literature are you targeting? Conference, journal, practitioner, or industry, or a combination of them? Now, in the justification, quite a number of the people right now focus more on journal papers. So if you go to journal, you are safe. If you go to conference, you can get confused because conference, they can so many of them. Now you have to justify which of them are you going to drop and which of them are you going to put in. So about journal, which is a safer place to start from. The practitioner is there because sometimes we do practitioner because of the emerging area and how the area is heavily laden with practitioners. So if you look, let me just show you an example. Let me open a paper for you to see. Okay, so this paper here that I'm going to show you is a paper that was published as a journal. It was first article. First it was a working paper. Then later it became. So let's look at the methodology. Okay, so because the initial developments within the field have been heavily influenced by practitioners. Listen very carefully. So
Okay, sir.
because the
Thank you.
initial developments within the research field have been heavily influenced by practitioners, this literature review incorporates both academic sources, that's journals, working papers, conference papers. You see his inclusion there, and practitioner sources, non-peer reviewed consultant reports, official reports, journal articles, conference papers, and other occasional and published papers. Okay. A number of criteria for identification, selection, and classification of the literature was defined. First, it was decided the review will be time limited. So now let's look at the variables that we wrote on our slides. Okay, that brings the question on the somebody had a question about time earlier. So on one dime, look at it here. So you have got. So I'm trying to open. Yeah. Okay, I'm seeing another hand from Emmanuel Jaba. I would like to hear from other people from other departments. Koiku Amwako, let me hear a question from you. And Kofi Herman, let me hear questions from the two of you.
I probably will ask questions.
I'm not saying that you ask questions. I'm telling you that tell us what you are doing so that we can help you. You people are having problems. You are sitting down. Francis was thinking that he's okay, but he didn't know that he had a problem. Most of you have problems, but you are sitting down.
Prof,
What
I'm
do you have
working on
to take you?
sustainability.
You are doing sustainability where?
Yeah, account measurement.
What do you mean by measurement?
I think they have different methods of measuring sustainability. So I'm trying to do comparison.
Comparative of the methods, or you are doing a review of the literature that have used this area?
A review of the literature.
Let me reserve my comments here now. Yes, the other person I mentioned, Kofi Herman.
Prof, this is Kofi.
Hello.
Yes, I was the one that asked the question about the telemedicine.
That's the question about what?
Telemedicine at the mental health.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
James Loretta Aku. No, Aruk. Loretta Aruk. Yes, let me hear it from you.
Yes, Prof. Hello?
Yes, I'm here. We are listening to you. We are listening to you. Loretta, we are listening to you. Or you don't know what to say. We are asking you, what are you doing? Anyway, she's gone off. Beatrice Obeng.
Prof, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Prof, please, I'm looking at service failure and recovery outcome from the public service.
Okay. So service
failure.
Service failure. So you are going to review service failure and then service recovery literature.
Recovery outcomes.
Recovery outcomes. By service recovery.
In the public service. Yes, please.
Yes, so service recovery, service failure, and then public sector. Okay. I'll advise you to start on a broad one before you narrow down to the public sector so that you can see the differences. Okay.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay.
Hello, Prof. Please, you mentioned my name.
Who is that?
Arut Loretta.
We told you, we're asking you to what you are doing. You didn't say anything.
And the network went off. That's why.
If you have something to say, please tell us. Otherwise, we'll move on.
Oh, okay, so I'm considering local government and performance management.
Okay. So She says she's looking at local government and performance management. So let's look at it. Local government. Then add another row. Performance
Management.
So instead of searching performance management in all fields, I will choose an abstract so that I can make sure that those which matter are the ones I pull out. But local government can be in every place. So I have had 387 from Emerald. When I combine these two, that is a good starting point. So I'm going to go through and try and look at the ones which are relevant. I will record this one down for Emerald and put it down. Like you saw the gentleman doing it for the smart city like this. So he's going to write Emerald 387 local government and performance. Then you can even justify where you put it, whether you put it in abstract or everything. You can do that. Okay, so that is one thing that you have to try and look at. Okay, but this time, so this 300 and this thing, it spans how many years, what year to what year. So usually it doesn't tell you here, but you have to be careful. It's not all of them which are articles. Some of them, so you got to eliminating. We can see only 334 are articles. So we choose only the 334. We can narrow down on the 334, and then we can check what years do they span. It's not clear here. The 334. I can download all the citations for all these papers so that I can have a read about them later, or I can go through them and start thinking of which of them will be relevant for my work, so I can do my own screening. The more I do the readings and check, I can get something more what I'm interested in. So I can see different smart cards, comprehensive performance in English local government. Now, if I was concerned about emerging economies, I would have added another parameter in this here. I would have added another one. So I said local government. So let me see local government. I'll add another one. I want only articles. This time I'll choose only articles. So performance. Performance management, and I add developing countries. And I want it in the abstract, but here developing countries, I'll leave it as to search every place. Now I've reduced it to 226. So that gives me a more of a narrow one for me to start looking into. Okay. So these are the papers that I want to look into. Okay. Then I can start categorizing them and get all of them. So you may need to download almost all of them as you go through them gradually. But if the year, you are specific in the year spanning, you can check the year spanning. Okay. But you see, for someone like her, she should have begun by going to something like Google Scholar. And I'm doing freestyle here. So local government. We find out all the papers that have been done on local government reviews so that you can get those papers out, especially the recent ones. So the some of them are 1998. It's quite very old, but it will still give you some guide on categorization. So try and see if you can get some of these reviews so that it can guide you in doing a local government review. And you can point out that somebody has already done local government and management and performance review 2015. So he published in the Journal of Public Administration. So that's a good journal. It has been cited 183 times, a very good journal. So anybody who will do any paper beyond that one can start off from the 2016 going, depending on where the person ended, if there's no new one that has come. So your justification in terms of year you span, it can come from where the old one left off. It was published in 2013, so it means that they even ended, they used only 86 articles. So where did the old one leave off? Or you can build on. But the person has done a very good review here. You can see that he has it here. Okay. And he has
thank you, Prof.
You see, he has written the categories of the theories already. The theories, the key concepts. You see what I was telling you, concepts, and then the theories there that link with the concepts. So the theories and the concepts that come from the theory. You can open in the web. Let's see. And so yeah, that one that included in the analysis, anticipated in the relationship. This is a construct review, but he has told you the antecedent theory the construct is coming from. Those of you were asking me, how do I do a construct review? Look at it, because he's told you that whether it was used as in the relationship with performance, as antecedent relation to performance, whether it was concluded in the analysis of the discussions of the paper. You can look at it here. Then I don't know what this one is. Otul Maya, whether M3. Maybe it's his classification here. I may have it in his work. It's not everything that I know, so please, I've not read the paper. But looking at his methodology, he talks about the fact that he searched the Anglophone, so you have to also choose which English are you doing English? Anglophone public administration journals. Anglophone public administration. We'll come to this. This is a very good paper. Oh, sorry. Where did I go to? We'll come to this later. So let's go back to our review. You see why I say ask questions is relevant. Okay. I saw there was a hand up. Eric Jaime. Or Hime. Yeah, Jaime.
Prof, thanks for the opportunity. So I'm looking at I'm looking at green consumer behavior in developing economies.
Yeah, so I don't think it's a problem. Green consumer behavior starts with green marketing. So you may want to check whether there have been any green marketing literature already, a review already. And then check whether they also been doing green consumer review. And then, so I would like you to start from the green consumer literature before you narrow down to green consumer review in developing countries or emerging economies. You may find the mother body has more papers before you can go down. Please, this one, there's nothing like the right or wrong answer. It is, you have to look at the differences as you go on, then narrow down, then be able to justify your choices. Do you understand?
Okay.
Yeah, let me just help you with these things and I'll come back to what I'm saying. So position of the existing reviews. What are you going to do? Whenever you are doing a review, the old reviews that exist are not counted as part of your papers and they're not used as now your knowledge. You can quote them, you can cite them to talk about the fact that you use them in your work to give you and guide and shape your work, but you don't use them in your count of papers. That is why it is good that you know all the papers you are talking about, especially the final one you say you narrow down to. Please, you have to be very careful about that. If you don't do that, you have problems. You have problems. And then the keywords. Which keywords are you going to use? Some papers define a database of keywords to use. In fact, I saw some paper, I was surprised. The paper had database of keywords to pull from. Because they knew that if you're not very careful, they'll come across different keywords. So they had a database of keywords to use. Let me see if it's this one. This is a paper on social media from a marketing review. So look at the social network and the different definitions that they saw in the literature. Social media as a concept, and then this is the method, and then there is a justification, articles they left out, articles they brought in, and then how they categorize them. So they looked at advertising, electronic word of mouth, customer relation management, social media and brand, social media and consumer behavior, social media and organization perspective. So adoption of social media. Then the methods for explaining the role of social media in market. They also look at the methods and the instruments, and they discussed. So everybody has his own style of looking at all of that. I don't want to see what there's anything in appendix. There's no anything in appendix. Let me see if I can find the one that use. See this. Okay, good. This one like this. It's a very interesting paper. This paper is about artificial intelligence for decision making in the era of big data, evolution, challenges, and research agenda. Yogesh is one of our mentors and he's a very good, great guy. But this one, he focused on the journal. The journal this is institutional politics. he's the editor of this journal. So he reviewed only the papers that have been published in that journal. So no, I'm not saying go and do that. But so that you can narrow down on the area and what the journal has contributed. So he looked at all the keywords that govern the area. So these are the keywords you use. Somebody can do that using these keywords for another type of study. I'm just letting you understand that you can develop a keyword data table and then use that one to guide you. But it depends on what you are doing. You just look at evolution of AI in a particular journal. Okay. So what is the position of the existing reviews? We're looking at this paper. What keywords are going? Who will define the keywords? Who informed you to choose this one? Are you looking at the key area or a sub-theme in the area? If you look at my paper on the cloud computing that we have been using, the cloud computing paper like this, we have the themes and then the sub-themes. The themes and based on somebody who has done the classification already in a previous review. So I use that one to guide me. So you have to make a choice on it. A choice on that. Okay. So going back again, as used by people, focus on your PhD. Then the domain will come inside. Which are you focused on? And you may not narrow down an industry, but you have to keep that that there's an industry that you may be looking out for. And the geographic location being Africa, you may be looking out for as you are going to do your search. I have a number of questions, so let me answer them before I go to the next slide, which will actually go to the example part. Okay, so I wanted to now take one step at a time and show you something on how to move from your discipline to go through it one by after the others. But let me take the questions from here. So Theodora has had a hand up for a long time.
Yes, Prof, please, I just wanted to find out, in as much as we know that you're not supposed to maybe focus on the context, if maybe looking at the construct you are looking at, the fact that you are doing it in Ghana, it's not your main gap, but the fact that you are doing it in Ghana is something worth mentioning. Would you advise that in doing your literature review, if you are, say, using the funnel approach, instead of reviewing your construct from a broader perspective to a narrow perspective, if you can rather start your literature review by using a context base, so you start with the world view.
No. I'll not advise you to do that. You lose papers. You see, your context is just Ghana. It doesn't mean that all the best papers have been published from Ghana. That is the problem people don't think about. Somebody is using some wild next theory. Your PhD is not a context contribution. It is a theoretical contribution to knowledge. So you may find that somebody has used some complex model in the UK to study the phenomenon of performance management to local government. But because you did all your search on Ghana and you focus on Ghana, you don't see that paper. The only way you see that paper is that you opened up. That is why you should open up before you narrow down. I remember I met a student that was there from your department, that I was the chair for his PhD. She did something very interesting and complex that she needed HR lecturers and then one accounting lecturer plus public admin lecturer so that she can do a good job to join the supervisory team. But these are interesting times that we are in. You want people to come to your Viva and you say that, Charlie, this thing that she's done is not even being looked into the current areas. You have got fantastic people like Gafaru in your place who are doing cut-edging stuff, new things, that new area, picking new theories, even looking at it from the development perspective and looking at it from other perspectives too. And their work is being respected all over the world. I think take your time. If you want to, I taught you something called character study. If you really want to do character study, go and look at what the people in your department have been published and look at the new areas that they are frontiering globally and people are citing those work globally. Then think about it that this thing, is it just about Ghana or is it about the issue? So please, I beg you, step outside and look elsewhere, and then look at there's that one day. That's why I taught you first character study and all those things I taught you last week. There's a need for you to check and know everything your department people have done. I taught you this thing for day one. I said know what all your people in your department have done. When you know that one, then you're okay. I know all of the people what they are doing. Now let me look into the world. What are they doing? Even the people I looked at, who are they citing? Justice Bawele, the dean, is doing that interesting work with people from Manchester. And the reason why the people from Manchester always come back to it, because they are doing it from other countries and they get a Ghana perspective through justice. But the thing is relevant globally. Your work is not about Ghana. It's about something that the world needs. Ghana is one emerging economy that has an instance of the phenomenon. The same phenomenon is being experienced in KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. It's being experienced in Oyo in Nigeria. It's being experienced in some part Escobar in Mexico. It's being experienced in somewhere in India. So can you do something that people in India will say, Charlie, this thing is good. Let me cite from Theodora et al. I can use it to solve the problem in India. Can I use that one to solve a problem in a rural part in Japan? It will surprise you that some of your work may be cited by people in Japan. Just this week, we are here and some people from China and a Ghanaian student that have written a paper and they see that it's about something that we have been doing. They want us to come on it. They're finished the way they want us to come on. Why? Because at the end of the day, they see value in what we have done and what they are doing in China. So your work, even though you're collecting data in Ghana, is the issue you are grappling with that is phenomenal at the global level. So that is why I will not advise you to narrow down on Ghana. When I began my PhD, there was no paper on Ghana on strategy. What would I do? There was no paper. If I kept on searching on Ghana, I won't even start. This Ghana story, I've been hearing it for a long time. I don't like it at all because it makes the student not do any work. They just ask the same question their supervisors have been asking. They don't push themselves. They just do the same thing. And you see that as a line of work comes from the department or from the people and say, oh, it's the same question. Oh, he just checked it. He just changed them. You went to Kutubabi, he went to Accra. And that's what they did. They just changed the thing. So when the person wants to publish, he can't publish more because there's nothing new in the work. But the people who come and look at it from the Viva, they'll say, oh, it's okay for Ghana. So, but it's not okay to compete internationally. Emerald has a doctoral research thesis award. Can you finish your work and take it to that international competition? Because you have confidence in the work you have done and the work is of good value. Amando in your department did some good work and got best paper in Emerald. That the bank got best paper in another platform too. Why? Because the work they do, other people competing in the same genre across the world see it of value. It's not because of Ghana. It's because of the issue they were studying and the methodology which they used to address the issue. So please, Ghana is just an instance. Let's not build our argument on Ghana. It's the last argument. I told you all the time. It's the last of the arguments. What issue, what theory, what methodological approach is novel enough for you to bring to the issue or to bring to the theory? That is what will make you stand the test of time. Anyway, I've said enough. Please, I say with all respect to all departments. That's why I'm just telling you that please push yourself. Go and look at Prof. Abo's work. And you see the citations are even more than Ghana, are coming from outside Ghana more than inside Ghana. Anyway. Yes, please. Sorry about that. I had to help my sister here, and not because of her. There are people who are sitting down who I'm bleeding for. I'm bleeding. My heart is bleeding for them because they're not sure about what they are doing, but they are still keeping quiet. Anyway, Kofi Herman, I saw your hand up. Let me answer that one before I come to Emmanuel Tete. Edward Tete, sorry. Kofi, it's an old hand.
Please, Elia. No, please, it's a new question.
Okay, Kofi, please, your area. I wish it was a new area that can help.
I mentioned it earlier as a telemedicine at the mental health sector.
No, your department. Sorry, your department. That's what I meant.
Health policy, please.
Okay, good. So that we know that we are, because your department, sometimes the mistake I do is that I will focus on admin and I will focus on health. Now I want to see that it's Everybody should see it's fair. We are going to different departments and then helping each person. I don't want the critique that we don't look into other department. Okay, so continue, Kofi.
Thank you. All right. Prof, please, in your earlier submission, you mentioned that existing reviews do not count as part of the papers we would use for our review. I didn't get it clearly.
Okay, so when you are counting those tables I was showing you, that look at this, how many was quantitative, how many was this, you don't count reviews. The final set of papers, reviews are not part of it. Do you understand me?
Yes, please.
Reviews are good for writing and establishing your, like this one is coming from a review. But you don't pick a review on the area and review the area. How will you hold that paper? Do you understand that? Because that one is a review of the area already. So if you are doing a new review, you want empirical papers and maybe conceptual papers too. Papers that talk about a thing without data. Those are the ones you are concentrating on. You don't want existing reviews. Because the review was also reviewing the past. Do you understand me?
Yes, Prof. I get it now.
Good. That's what I was trying to say. Let me show you here. Maybe you may not say something like that. I was thinking that I had a statement in one of the papers that justifies why there's a need for a review. Okay, don't worry. Yes, there's another hand there. Please, if you can go, Edward.
Yeah, Prof. Yeah, I'm from the HR department.
Oh, good. Now I'm getting a different voice.
And I'm looking at leadership.
Okay, please hold on. Let me show you something. Okay. And this study takes a stock of current e-commerce research with a view of identifying gaps in knowledge yet to be explored. An earlier study akin to this present one reviewed e-commerce between 1993 and 1999 and was particularly focused on this one. The failure of this study was to make a substantial contribution to e-commerce in developing country research. May have been stemmed partly from the fact that with respect to the integration of the internet, people and business, e-commerce was in the early stage of development in 1993 and was yet to become a phenomenon in the developed country and even more diffuse. So the reason why the past reviews didn't look at developing countries was that time it was not a phenomenon among us. However, since then, much has changed since 1999. Evidence exists to show that there have been substantial increase in penetration of this. So I justify. There have been new journals have come up. So sometimes the reason why you're doing a review is that the old reviews didn't capture certain things, and the new reviews are needed because even new journals have come up in the area, which emphasize that there's a need for research in the area. New journals which focus on that particular area. These developments necessitate the need to study what has been covered by researchers in e-commerce, participants in e-commerce in research, in e-commerce research indices, in order to synthesize what has been done and what has not been done, and what new directions this e-commerce research might need to focus on. So please look at the existing reviews to know what has been done, so that you know where your take-off point is. Take-off point. Sometimes the old papers have been very narrow. Edward, you can go ahead now.
Yeah, so I'm looking at leadership in higher education in the era of the fourth industrial revolution.
Okay.
You say you are looking at leadership,
Yeah, in higher education. The era of the fourth industrial revolution.
Okay. That you see that variable that you have there is a variable that tries to point out where your study will end up going to. So I think I'll not use that one now. It should come out of the review.
Okay.
Do you understand me?
Which variable? Is it the fourth industrial revolution?
Yes, please.
Okay.
And you have to even explain it very well.
Yeah.
Good. What you told me is not your what you are reviewing. Is you told me what your PhD is on. Your PhD is on a narrow one. Your review is on a broader one. Your review is what begets the PhD. The problem you have right now is that you all have an idea of what you want to do. You cannot divorce yourself from going back to look at it. You're afraid that if I go back, I'll see something new that will not make what I'm going to do, or it may not support what I want to do. The problem, and another problem, most of you have found about 5 or 6 studies that you say your area is needed. Oh, your area is needed. So you are sticking with that 5. You are sticking with that 5. It will surprise you that by the time you get to the next year or next 2 years, people have published in that area and closed the gap. Then you ask yourself, what am I doing now? Go back and find something very good and strong and add on to what you have. I don't want to, because what you just mentioned, the theoretical dimensions of it is not even captured in it. So what literature has, what theories have been used to study leadership from those dimensions? And another thing that will come up is that you are looking at the 4th industrial revolution. That means that you are going to, if I was your supervisor, I'm saying if I was your supervisor, I'm not your supervisor. I'm saying if I was your supervisor, the discussions on generational theory and generational cohorts will come in, because those are the recipients of that. And currently, there's a lot of HR literature that is looking at how different generations respond to organizations, respond to recruitment, respond to HR practices in the organization. How do you motivate a generation R person? How do you lead a generation Y person, a generation Z person? How do you lead the person? These questions have been coming up. HR literature, go and look into it. There's even interested in it. Reginald has even published a paper in relation to that, which is in your year 2 or year 3 in your field of study. So please, there is a lot of interesting issues there. But you also have to be very careful of that concept of 4th industrial revolution. You may not have papers that mention that, but they still capture it. So you have to conceptualize that thing very well.
Okay.
Sometimes some things sound very interesting and sexy in the ears when you're like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But you may not find anything on it because of the way you are using the words. Wow. Portia, let me respond to you.
Hello, Prof. Please, I'm from public administration, and I'll be looking at the media.
Where's accounting students? Okay, continue, Portia.
Prof, I'm looking at the media and public policy agenda setting, that climate change issues in Ghana.
But right now, that's not what you want to review. You actually want to review climate. You have 2 things in here. You have got climate change, a public policy agenda setting. Climate change seems to be a sub-theme in it. So you are going to look for public policy communication or whatever. Public policy communication, and all those words, keywords around communication and agenda setting that will be related to that. Then find out in terms of what they have been communicating, how much has focused on climate change. That's one. And find out how much has focused on media. And find out how much has focused on both media and climate change and public system. But what you're actually doing is the mother area, public sector, public policy communication. I think that's what you're trying to do.
Thank you, Prof.
You understand it?
Yes, Prof.
If you go straight for public this and climate change, you have problem. Because climate change is not your area of contribution. It is the secondary area in which your disciplinary area is public policy communication. The application area is climate change. The variable you want to try and look at it in terms of public policy is media. So somebody can actually look at public policy communication and media, and then add it to bank, or add it to what's the name, healthcare, where you're studying let's say AIDS, or you're studying I did my work with Planned Parenthood some time ago, where I was, and then I also did my work with WAPCAS, that's West African Project to combat AIDS. So I remember I was in charge of behavioral communication, and I developed behavioral communication material, which was converted into 4 Ghanaian languages, including 3 other Ghanaian languages, including then adding English, so 4 languages. And we needed to use it across the country. So I needed to work with journalists and different people and media personalities in that area. So I understand what you are doing, but for healthcare, I don't understand it for climate change. You see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yes, Prof.
Good.
Thank you, Prof.
So your area like this, somebody can pick the same area and change the application area where we apply it. Some of you want to turn where you apply it as a PhD. If you want to turn where you apply it as a PhD, then you should have the senior scholars in your area telling you that area, over since then this is we started doing public policy. Nobody has looked at climate change. So the senior scholars are saying that, then that one makes it very good. But don't build the PhD just about where you're applying it. Build it on the issue and then the theory. Then you can bring out where you're applying it to it.
Thank you, Prof.
I thank God that you talked, because you would have had something confusing in your mind. Okay. Yes. I have two hands more. Let me try and address that one, then I can narrow down. Already the time is up. So those who have to leave us, I'll try and round up in the next 15. If you have to leave us, I don't have a problem. You can leave. Or else I can round up with the other people. Okay. Gilbert and Emmanuel, how can I help you?
Okay, sir. Thank you very much. I'm in MI, so I'm doing big data analytics and business value realization. So my first question is about the type of literature. I've seen some people claim that you should look at the leading journals, and there's this Microsoft Index where they list the top journals in business. Can you use that as justification? Let's say I'm selecting the top 5, sorry, not journals, conferences.
Please.
I'm selecting, yes, please.
Okay. Whenever you want to choose the top journals in an area, go and use the verified one that has been being published every year.
Okay.
One of them is the ABS ranking. This year they changed the name. I've forgotten the name they are using now. The 2021 is out. It has it in different disciplinary areas. That's Association of Business Schools. But I think they call it this year, they call it Academic Journals. I've forgotten. I saw it last week.
Right.
So the Association of Business Schools General Ranking, the 2021 is out. On top of it, the discipline you belong to has its own rankings from the Discipline Association. Go and look at that one. Then you have also got the ABCDE rankings. Then you also got the rankings based on either Scopus or JCR, that's the General Citation Reports. That's come from Thomson Reuters. Thomson Reuters is in fact the most, and they give the citation, the impact factors, and those which are impact factor 5 are the highest, and I think some are even 7 or something like that. So you have got so many databases to use. The good thing about some of the other databases is that they try to bring in all of them into one. There's one person called Han something. There's a woman who has been publishing. She synchronizes all the databases together and tell you every journal and its ranking. So don't just get up and say that you choose the best. Who said those are the best? You have to know what your industry is saying. For example, information system, there's the senior basket of information system journals, and then there's also the top 50 information system journals. This one gives you direction where you are going to. But let me come to the substantive issue. And I'm talking like a politician. The thing I've chosen, I don't think there's a future in that area. I'm sorry to use those words. There's so much literature and on big data and value. Even somebody as part of our department who has done something on value and capabilities already. You need to look at a better angle of the same thing. Have you checked the existing reviews on big data to find out where the gaps are? The recent reviews on the big data to find out where the gaps are?
Please, I have. And what I have noticed, which I'm not so sure then, is that they all look at it looking at strategy and how it influences operational processes and stuff like that. But I am thinking, because I haven't seen this yet, that I can introduce a new variable. I don't know if you would advise me to do that. Nobody has looked at how organizational learning can influence value realization. They have looked at how big data can support organizational learning.
I can't say that. The only way you can do that is to do a review to prove that nobody is looking at organizational learning. And now, the fact that nobody is looking at organization does not mean that it's important. That's something I've been telling people too. Why is it important is another issue. Because the whole thing about learning has to do with how we leverage big data. So you have to be very careful at looking at the link between organizational learning and big data. Look for literature on that area. I think we published something attempted to publish something on that area sometime. It was a book chapter.
I've seen that too.
But I think that is just a preliminary work. There's better works that you can do in that area. And even that, sometimes in big data, it is much more about the field. If we look at big data in healthcare, then you are talking about big data, healthcare and organization, and then and learning, where you are looking about practitioners like doctors learning from the big data that they have done, the data that they have generated, and using them to inform the practice of medicine. That would be quite interesting.
Okay. Thank you very much. And my second question is in line with what I just said. I saw a paper, it's like a research agenda, and it was on AI platforms. And their argument was there is no literature on AI platforms. So they looked at only the annual reports of I think is it top 500 companies in America? So there's a name for it. I forgot it.
Please.
Yes, please.
I don't have a problem about what you are saying, but AI platforms, go back and check whether it's information systems or computer science, or something else.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let me continue. Gilbert, do you have any question?
Yes, sir. Please, I am looking at the method aspect. So
I've not reached method. Okay, which part of the method? Sorry.
You explained that you could take your topic from a concept or a conceptual side. You could also look at the method aspect, and then there was another third dimension where you could come from. So that's where I am trying to come from. I'm looking at design science research is becoming prominent among IS researchers.
Okay, so I understand you. Okay, so there are people who review. There are papers who review the state of SEM, structural equation modeling in an area. So if that's the kind of what you want to look at, then you have to look at doing a review on design science research in information systems. But because design science sometimes spans into computer science, you have problems. That's my only issue. But please, I don't think, you see, where you are right now, I don't think your objective is contribute to the method. Your objective should be to contribute to an issue, and then you use the method to achieve it. So, for example, if you look at this cloud computing work, it did a normal cloud computing work, but look at what it did. It pointed out that there are very few studies that use mixed methods. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So you can also do a study where you end up pointing out something like this. You end up pointing out something like this. Look at this one too. Look at this table. Look at the table here. Survey, case study, content analysis, archival data survey, attribute analysis, simulation experiment, mixed methods, and other. So let's come out of something like this better. It's better than rather pointing out that you want to use design. So it was one of the things that was found, not the main thing I want to contribute on. Do you understand it?
Yes,
one of the things that was found. I would like it to be found this way. So the issue was being searched on, and the issue, we looked at the different methods that have been used to analyze the issue, and we found that experiment study is not there. So there's case study. Design science should have come. So maybe design science should come here. So you find out that maybe that one is 0 or something like that. Are you okay?
Okay, Prof, my angle is a bit different. I am actually looking at blockchain technology, modeling a system based on blockchain. But then my motivation or foundation is the fact that the modeling is going to be based on design science research, which has the ability to also create new knowledge within the IS discipline.
Yes,
So
but that one necessarily might not be a gap because it is future studies have not been received. But you're just saying that the method itself in applying that area helps. That's all. That one is different. That's about significance of your study. But right now we're talking about why are you choosing that blockchain area. That's what we are now. Not about why you are choosing this. Why are you choosing that blockchain area? I'm coming. Let me see something. I think I saw one that I opened earlier. Okay, I think I closed it. Okay. So the question is more about why you are choosing that area. That's what it is. It's not just about what you want to do. Why are you choosing that area?
Okay.
Okay, so let me go to the next one and round up so students can go and relax. So when you want to select and justify your target sources, you need to first of all ask yourself, are you going to go through everybody go through databases. Before you get your databases, find out the leading journals in your discipline and check what you have done and what has been done in that area concerning what you want to do. And then sometimes there is specialist journals. Some people who do their review, they focus on only public administration journals. You may think that I'm not right about that, but look at this one. This one is not that I knew it before I came. Whilst we were doing this, and I saw we chanced on this paper. Sorry. So this paper is about local government and performance, a review of evidence. If you look at the methodology that they used, the empirical literature on management and organizational performance in local government was located in Anglophone Public Administration Journal, listed on the, you see, I mentioned Thomson Reuters Web of Science Social Sciences Index. This is a strong platform which has all the best and highly ranked journals in there. So when you choose this one, you capture everybody. But you see, it's not everybody. I don't think in University of Ghana we have full access to top Web of Science. You could have searched through Web of Science and see. I don't know, but you can check. Not all the abstracts were reviewed. He's telling you the truth. Indicated that the study was situated not all the abstracts reviewed indicated that a study was situated in local government. Rather, using search terms, we reviewed each article by hand from 1970 to 2012. This search procedure resulted in 490 empirical articles featuring questions on management and organizations. We examined these studies in greater depth and implemented the following decision rules. This is inclusion criteria, the one I was telling you. For inclusion in the review, the unit of analysis was an organization. So if the paper is not about an organization, you drop it. As part thereof, that's excluding studies on individual level of the manager or citizen. So they're not concerned about manager or citizen. They wanted the organization. Studies included measures of management and organization, excluding studies that was focused solely on management or performance. This is the thing I was telling you earlier. The lady who was doing this thing. If you're not very careful, you will also be focusing too much on papers on management and performance. But he said that he was concerned about papers that look at bringing the two together, management and organization, and then not just papers looking at just only on one of the dimensions. Performance was operationalized as a dependent variable. You're not looking at, so that's the outcome variable of it. So that papers that will say something that leads to performance, have something leading to performance. So you look at performance as a dependent variable. An article presented the statistical results in a form of multiple regression that could be used to support the core meta-analytic technique. Okay, so I was going to go to that. Meta-analytic techniques like to focus on numerical, statistical evaluation of literature. They don't do descriptive, they do statistical. So they only want papers that has data in it as quantitative data. Because sometimes they can compare the data or they can pull all the people's data together and use it to do another analysis. So that's what they do in meta-analytics. So when someone is doing meta-analytics, he's very confirmed. But sometimes people use the word anyhow. I did a meta-analysis and I did a literary systematic. Systematic is the whole process. But within it, you may do a meta-analytic, or somebody can do a meta-analytic on his own. So meta-analytic is a statistical quantification of the literature with the objective of looking at homogeneous literature. So my slides ahead of you. We'll get there later. So the procedure resulted in a sample of 86 containing 999 independent tests of some aspect of management and performance relationships. See why I was saying that? They're looking at specific relationships. Okay. So these papers were on specific things. Okay. Let's now go back. Now the primary source of literature for the review was electronic databases. Database searches, as this practice has become apparent information system, and then the justification is coming. Therefore, the choice of electronic database was deemed appropriate. The search of literature, was conducted in two phases. The first phase, the senior basket of IS journals, as recommended by Association of Information Systems 2011, were searched individually to ascertain the extent to which cloud computing research has been accorded credence in the journals. You search individual journals to check the how much your issue has been given credence or focus in those journals. Since this practice is evident in other studies, so they quoted my own. This is my own. I've done it in a previous study before. Nagai and Watt has done it before. Young and Tati has done it before. Everything you do, you have to justify. However, it became evident that the senior basket of information system did not have many studies on cloud computing. It is better for you to do a report zero than not to do at all, because it's a scientific thing you are doing. One of the tips that we give for a very good review is that the person shall have given enough information for the study to be replicated. A possible reason for less research on the cloud computing in this senior basket of journals is the newness and technicality of the cloud computing. Technicality means that if you go and push on, you end up searching computer science literature, which is not your field of study. Second, a wider search was conducted in the electronic databases such as EBSCOhost, Science Direct, Emerald, Sage, JSTOR, ACM Data Library, which is a computer science database, and then Google Scholar. According to Levy and Ellis, 2006, these sources cover an extensive size of the top 50 journals, information system journals. Therefore, a fair representation assumed to be achieved. Everything that you do, justify. If you choose database, justify. Where will you get those justifications from? Look at previous reviews and learn from that justification. Or you can say, as used by Kwame Nai and something in a previous study, then you show the person who has also used that the same thing that you are trying to do. So when you finish, then you are going to find the literature. So I will end it here today. The best thing I advise you to do is that take people's methodologies and read them, especially from the beginning to the methodology. Or if you don't have time, just read the methodology so they can understand what people do. What I was reading was coming from my cloud computing paper. If you read more, I tell you what I did, how I eliminated conference papers, what I put in, what I classified by, what I didn't classify by, choices that I made are all captured there. It will guide you in doing your own review. So if you can do that, then you can then go through. There's one that I also give to you, this one-on-one, which is also very good. The smart city one, it's a recent one, and one of my students did it out of this class. This one was done in this class last year. Somebody's own. It's now being published as a journal paper, as a conference, as a book chapter. So he also did something in this review. EBSCOhost just and the top eight IS journal were searched to support a semantic review of smart computers. So he mentioned that one. Then he said that he dropped a database. Why did he drop that database? Because those database, the study was focusing on business and managerial aspects of cloud computing, not the technical aspects. So to be able to do that, he dropped the ones which is on engineering. So all the choices are justified. Then out of that, he got 866 papers based on the different sections. Some people even have more than this because of the different keywords they use, and they report them. You need to report everything. So after that, he did the duplicates were reviewed, title and abstract were also searched, and he went to 260 and later went to 70. So if you look at this, what the person went through, and sometimes this illustrative diagram is important. It helps us to understand your job. So you look at the journals that he looked at, then the top 8. This is what he got: 254, 612. Then he went to keyword and abstract reading, went to 229. Keyword and abstract went to 70. Removal of duplicates, he went to 260. Introduction reading, like reading the introduction of the person's paper, 190. Then go through when I say reading, it means like going through that part and skimming to see whether it will help your work, 110, and then 70. So we need to see that logical step-by-step process of arriving at your final number. This 70 is good enough for a PhD, but it's not because it's 70, it's because of what he has gone through and being able to scientifically show it. Thank you very much for this second session. I'm hoping that next time we'll go into more detail. So I'll end it here. Obe, do you have any question? Anthony Bar, any question?
Yes, Prof. My question had to do with what Mr. Tusa was asking you earlier about how you do the search. I'm asking because of the current task that you assigned me to work on, and so I was at a point confused, and so I wanted to ask. It was about the construct that you were referring to. So I have antecedents, constraints, and outcomes. In the sample keywords that I sent to you earlier, I was including these parameters as part of the search keywords, but from the clarification that you have given, it would be best to take out those as part of the keywords and then do the search generally. And then from the systematic review, then I can identify what the antecedents were, what the constraints were, what the outcomes were, and possibly the moderators are.
It's yes and no, because some papers have the word antecedents in their title. That's why I was thinking that after you have done the general, you can do those ones to get whether they will be adding new papers that you have not seen.
Oh, okay.
Good. Some people write papers on like antecedents and outcomes of consumer behavior, a study of something. That's how they title their paper.
Yes, Bob.
Do you understand? So I'm just trying to tell you that it could even help you even narrow down to those words that have clearly mentioned antecedents, so that you can know where to begin from when you're doing your systematic review.
Yes, but the issue has to do. The other angle is about the how complicated the search would be, in the sense that if the first category looks at the antecedents and that search is complete, so I get that set of papers and I come and do maybe outcomes or constraints as another search, there may be existing papers that I may have found in the antecedents which may also be showing up in the constraint search or in the outcomes search.
The guy got 2866. He removed duplicates. It went to 260. Why don't you want to also remove duplicates?
Yes, Prof. Well, I get. I just wanted the clarity.
Even as you move across different databases, EBSCOs, and go to Emerald, you may still get duplicates across. That is why it's advisable that when you are downloading the papers, start categorizing them according to maybe journal and then the year and this, so that if you are putting the same paper back into the same folder, you will see that this guy has been here already.
Yes, Prof. I understand.
When I was doing Theodora's own, I taught you something. Maybe you guys didn't get it. I was trying to use it as an example. When I did a search, I did a search. First of all, I got 300 and something, and I wrote it down, and wrote the keywords I used. Then I came and I changed the variable, added developing countries, and I got it. So I will do that now. When I narrow down, I got 266. This is elimination.
Yes, Prof.
So that I keep on writing down. So then, if I'm more concerned about developing countries, and I think this one is a good start, I may stay here. But if I do that, I risk of also losing all the other ones that I saw earlier. That is my choice. I risked it. So I may stay here. Because the number I have, 266, is quite voluminous enough already. It's passing 100, which is also good. But if I did this one, I go to 5. I won't stay here. I'll go back to the other one. Or I got 10, 20, 15, 20, 17, 70. I'll go back, but I'm getting 266. It means that I've even done well already. I've come down more. So I would rather stay with this one. I hope, and then I'll be very careful to know which papers are they also citing.
Yes, bro.
Okay.
Thank you, bro.
Okay then.